this morning's moment of learning, I just have a short one. I thought it'd be worth talking about something that I get questions about every once in a while, about how to go about studying the Bible, as if there was like one way that was the best way. But there are many different ways, and I just wanted to give a few suggestions, especially if you're like saying, well, I've always studied the Bible this way, and I've always found it difficult. It isn't I learned it this way from my father. I learned this way from my Bible Sunday school teacher, whatever. So I'm just giving a few ideas, just a few little short ones. So what are some good ways to read the Bible? Well, as I said, you could probably come up with a list of 100 if we all sat down and could say, what are the ways that you find it helpful? And everybody's going to be a little different. So I have a few ideas, just 4 of them this morning. First is, try reading it aloud. Reading aloud, sometimes people are like, well, I feel silly if I'm reading aloud. Well, if you're alone and say nobody else is there to know that you're silly, and God doesn't think it's silly. So try reading aloud, because it also helps with memorization, because it gives you a feedback loop in the sense that you hear yourself saying something. Now it's easier to remember. And by the way, when you say something, your mind automatically tries to find ways to make it true. I don't know if you've ever heard that. That's why positive thinking and so forth is such an important thing. It's because if you are a negative thinker, your mind will try and prove you right. And so positive thinking is good. Now that's not this, but this is the same sort of thing. As we speak out the truths of God, then our eyes and our minds and our hearts will start to look for those things to see, how is that true in my life? So try reading it aloud. Another one is to try and focus in on different words. You say, the Lord is my shepherd. You could say, the Lord is my shepherd, or the Lord is my shepherd, or the Lord is my shepherd. So however, it lets you focus on something. I know some people have said, well, I go into Strong's Concordance and go in there and figure out all the different places those words show up. You can run into some very interesting studies if you try and say, how is the word rock used in the Old and the New Testament? How was the word shepherd used in the Old and New? You can do a lot of amazing studies that way. So as you're reading a Bible verse, try focusing on some different words. Another one is to read a few good translations. I say good translations because some translations, not all translations are created equal in that sense, that some are better than others. But take a couple that you've heard that people use for the Bible studies, try reading them, because sometimes something emphasizes a different word and it gives a different sense of like, oh, and you'll see something in our passage today, and I'm not going to cover it much, but when it says here, it says peace. Well, it's not talking about peace, it's talking about quiet, that sort of peace as opposed to the peace holistic of the. So you start to understand that when you have a few different versions, a few different translations of the same passages. I tend to do that, by the way, when I go through and prepare things for messages, because it helps very quickly be able to codify and be able to get to some of those words that are a focus point that I want to look into. Finally, pray that the Lord teach you something specific from the passage. I think one of the things that a lot of people find very helpful is not just learning to learn, but learning to do. And so if you say, Lord, teach me what it is that you want from this passage that I then can go and implement in my life, all of a sudden it becomes real for you. It isn't just a theoretical or some sort of in the clouds sort of thing, but it becomes real in your life. And it is amazing how many times when you pray that the Lord show you how this applies. Show me how the peace of God applies in my life today. Show me how the grace that we show to others applies in my life today. All of a sudden the Lord will show us those things in our lives, and so it makes it that much more real. So those are just a few suggestions. There are many, many more. If you have a favorite one, comment below, so to speak. You can let me know afterwards what your favorite way of doing that is, but those are just a few.